At a high-level meeting of China's Communist Party yesterday, they have declared President Xi Jinping the undisputed rule of, quote, decisive significance for the nation, affirming his grip as he prepares for yet another term that would at least extend his command of China until 2027.
President Xi, he is aggressive. He wants to make China the only superpower in the world. He wants to surpass the United States in military, intel, and cyber capabilities, and he's well on the way to doing that. And the idea that we're not going to contain them but peacefully coexist is a naive proposition.
With Xi Jinping being moved to this position, to this level of leader, it also is a message to the world. This is who you're going to be dealing with, not just for the near term, but for the long term. And we have historically placed him in this role.
The goal here is not containment. It's not a new Cold War. It is rather a favorable disposition of how the United States and its allies and partners can shape the international rules of the road on the sorts of issues that are fundamentally going to matter for the people in our country and the people everywhere.
They're a power that we have to deal with, but when it comes down to whether or not we can trust them, that should be an open and shut case that we can't. If you look at who China is, especially in news of this dictator for life news that came out about Xi today, Jordan, they're not free. Of course, they're not democratic. We know that. That's not a news flash. They're not open. They're not a partner. And most importantly, Jordan, they're not trustworthy.
I'm not looking for, I don't anticipate there will be a need for there be physical conflict. But, you know, as you've heard me say this before, my dad had an expression. He said the only conflict worse than one that's intended is one that's unintended. One that's unintended. And so in my meetings with him virtually coming up, we haven't set the exact date yet, I want to make sure there's no misunderstanding. It's competition, not conflict.
No one's trying to rush into a world war with China. That being said, they've pushed the envelope about as far as you can. They genocide against your own people, a virus unleashed on the world without apology. Right. By the way, it's not even like they try to say we did this, we messed up, it's our fault, and we feel horrible. Try to pay and try to build a fund or something. No, it's the opposite. They push, and so this idea of competition versus conflict, to me, it feels a lot more like some kind of conflict.
The key issues with the U.S. and China include Hong Kong, where they're violating all the democracy agreements, the military buildup in the South China Sea, and they are really, really aggressive there. Of course, the pandemic, trade, the potential invasion of Taiwan. And while all of this is going on, they are increasing their military exponentially. They now have the largest Navy in the world. They've surpassed the United States Navy. And they don't have as much sophisticated technology as we do, but they're close. And they're intent on having the largest military in the world. Right now we do. And so I think it's foolish in light of all of these issues, South China Sea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, military buildup, to say that it is not our goal to contain China.
The fact that there's an ongoing genocide inside this country, and the statement from our national security advisor is, well, we don't want to contain them. I mean, to me, Harry, that alone, it's just, you are playing with a very powerful, dangerous force. And he talks about these rules of the road. They love international rule norms, but China doesn't follow any of those.
The United States policy with respect to China is grounded essentially in one goal only, and that is surrender. Surrendering U.S. sovereignty, surrendering our concern for human rights violations. And what do we get in exchange? Perhaps an incredibly weak climate change deal wherein the Chinese government will continue to flaunt those rules, will continue to increase its footprint in genocide.
How, in the several months of meetings behind the scenes with China, did you bring up some of those very contentious issues, such as the use of forced labor in Xinjiang for building solar panels? How did you address it, and how did you kind of overcome that in reaching this final?
Well, we're honest. We're honest about the differences, and we certainly know what they are, and we've articulated them. But that's not my lane here. That's my job is to be the climate guy.
On the same day that John Kerry made that statement, Admiral John Kirby, who's the Pentagon press secretary, was asked in the Pentagon press briefing room, which is the greater threat, climate change or China? To which he responded, well, they are both major threats. And by his response to that, he's equating climate change as being on equal footing as a threat to the peace of the world and to the United States as climate change itself. And so it's not a surprise when the Pentagon makes a statement like that John Kerry is going to say, well, human rights, they're not in my lane.
Human rights, forced genocide, forced sterilization, Jordan, that is everybody's lane. And a true leader makes sure that everybody in his cabinet, everybody that speaks for him says as much.
1 to 3 billion people are subject to forced sterilization right now in the Muslim community in China, torture, forced labor, which Secretary Kerry just shrugged his shoulders. He didn't say, I don't think that's not. He knows what that is. He knows it's true. He knows that they're not denying. They acknowledge the genocide. They acknowledge the sterilization. They acknowledge the forced labor. But it's like they've got their new idea of what human rights are, and those are tradable for climate.